Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for September 13th. This day has seen the release of one of the biggest and the biggest video games ever. First up, on September 13th, 1985, Nintendo released Super Mario Bros. On the NES, or Famicom in Japan. The character of Mario and his brother Luigi had already appeared in previous Nintendo games like Donkey Kong and the Mario Bros. Arcade game, but Super Mario Bros. Was something very different. Unlike a single-screen arcade game, it was a side-scroller, with players traversing left to right from one end of a level to the other, with the ability to jump and stomp on their enemies. Nintendo designers Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka created the game as a way to show off the capabilities of the Famicom and its cartridge system, using the knowledge of the hardware to get the most out of it, and because they really knew what they were doing, the final game only came in at a mere 32 kilobytes. When it was released in Japan, the game became a huge hit and was so big that Nintendo decided to bundle it with the NES for the console's launch in North America a month later. This helped drive interest in the system, establishing Nintendo, the NES, and Mario as the dominant force in the gaming industry. The success of Super Mario Bros. And its emphasis on Mario's jumping abilities gave rise to an entirely new genre, the platformer. Mario has since appeared in about 50 million games, but who's counting? The next game wasn't quite as big, but it was still a knockout. September 13th, 1993 was a day your local game store said, "Get over here!" because that's when the original Mortal Kombat was released on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, as well as the handhelds Game Boy and Game Gear. Mortal Kombat had already been released in arcades the previous year, with creators Ed Boon and John Tobias tasked by their employer Midway to create a more violent and edgy brawler to compete with other games like Street Fighter II. The thing that made Mortal Kombat unique was its fatality system, allowing players to execute their opponents in gloriously bloody fashion. Unfortunately for the home versions, Midway was forced to tone down the violence. On the Genesis, the blood could only be unlocked using a special cheat code, and it was removed altogether from the SNES version. Despite this, the violence in the game still created a huge controversy, and the U.S. House of Representatives even held congressional hearings on video game violence as a result. The controversy surrounding Mortal Kombat directly led to the creation of the ESRB rating system, which is still in use today. Needless to say, the controversy didn't stop Mortal Kombat from becoming a huge success. Ports of the game found their way to the PC and Sega CD a year later, and there have since been more than a dozen sequels or spin-offs.